So the central conceit of the game is that players are adventurers exploring an absurd dungeon. And you play item cards in your inventory in front of you that represents the stuff you're carrying around, and then you use the junk in your inventory to solve encounter cards in the dungeon in the middle of the table. And collecting stuff and defeating monsters, solving quests, that sort of thing all earn you points, and the player with the most points at the end of the game wins.
Hi, I'm Christina. I got conscripted into helping with this video. So let's start the game. I get to go first. So each player gets 7 cards. Look at your cards, and on your turn you can play as many tools, weapons, and treasures as you want, provided they don't exceed the weight limit of 10. You play those here on the table in front of you. So I just drew this Book of the Dead, this shovel, this sword, and a gemstone. I played these here, now they're what I'm carrying. And, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 9. I haven't exceeded my weight limit, which is great. I have also drawn this monster. He's an incredibly vain goblin. And once a turn, you can play a monster, puzzle, or quest in the middle of the table. So I'm doing that with him. Those cards are laid out in a 3x3 grid, up to 9 cards.
So I've played a couple of cards in front of me. I've got the lantern and the sword. It's a tool and a weapon. I'm currently under 10 weight, so I'm good to go. I've also got a container card here, which is the pack mule, who can carry 8 weight. He looks pretty upset about me dragging him through a dungeon with a bunch of stuff on his back, but it does increase my weight limit by 8, so I'm going to go ahead and play him. Now, I'm going to play things into the container. That's how they work. So I'm going to put in some plate mail, and also this really great worthless crystal skull, and also the 50 foot of rope, which is extremely useful. And you can lay those cards down on top of the container to show that they're in there. You can set them underneath the container, whatever floats your boat. It's that easy. So you'll notice that in addition to weight, there are other values on cards. So the sword has a weapons value of 3, and the lantern has a tool value of 2. We're currently representing those with icons. And the reason those values are important are because quests and encounters in the dungeon all have specific requirements for beating them. For example, the incredibly vain goblin, which is worth 4 points if you defeat it, requires either 2 weapons value or sacrificing a treasure. I could sacrifice my skull, but I have the sword here, so I might as well just go ahead and take that, and I get to put the card right into my little victory pile of accomplished points. The idea here is that you manage your inventory with an eye towards strategically being able to accomplish things in the dungeon. Seems pretty simple, right?
But other players can screw you over with effects or traps. Effects change gameplay for the better or for the worse. They can make you stronger, they can make your opponents weaker, they can let you steal things from other players or destroy or alter other players' items. Traps are played in front of another player, and they typically require a certain tool value or the sacrifice of a certain card to defeat them. And the player has to solve that trap that's in front of them before they can conquer anything that's in the center of the table. So they make for pretty effective roadblocks. So I've got the trap Many Alligators here in my hand. It's worth some points if Stuart can get rid of it, but he'll have to have a lot of tools or he'll have to sacrifice the sack full of kittens to appease those hungry gators. So I'm going to play that trap on him. I am also going to play the card Do You Even Lift? On myself. This card lets me carry 4 extra weight. I feel stronger already. And just to make the trap, the gators, that much more difficult, I'm going to play Destroy on Stuart's pack mule, which moves the container, the mule, and all of the items in it to the discard pile. So, now that I'm incredibly buff, I'm going to go ahead and carry around this unmanageable amount of gold coins, which I also have in my hand. It weighs a lot, but it's also worth a huge number of points at the end of the game. I'm feeling pretty good.
So I got stuck with a trap, which requires a whole bunch of tools, and I can't solve anything in the dungeon until I get rid of it, which is a huge bummer. Fortunately, on my last redraw, I pulled a bunch of tools, so I'm going to go ahead and play those now and add this card to my victory pile.
This game is written as a tribute to the ridiculous and awesome things that you can find in pen and paper RPGs, but the mechanics are pretty simple and the card game plays really fast and it makes it a really fun party game. The game ends when a player solves a quest. So once that happens, all of the players add up their points totals to see who wins.
As Christina said, after a quest is completed and the game has ended, all of the players add up their point totals. So you get points for all of the monsters, traps, and encounters you defeated. I'm looking at about 18 points there. And you also get points for all of the treasure, weapon, and tools that you have. And so you add up everything. Everything has got a value. Like I said, for monsters and stuff, I've got 18 points, and then I've got a whole bunch of treasure and tools and weapons here. Plus I have the Grumbling Henchman container, which is holding some extra stuff. And I've got 8, 24, 25, looks like 30, 31, 35, 38, 40 points. So I've got 40 points in my pack, and I've got 18 points of extra stuff, which is about 58 points, and that's pretty exciting.
Here's a recap. On your turn, you can play items on the table in front of you. You can play traps and effects on other players at the table. You can place one encounter in the center of the table, and you can solve either a trap or an encounter, but not both.
So I mentioned constraints earlier, and there are only 4 rules that apply to the overall game. The first is that you can't carry more than 10 weight by default. The second is that you can't play more than one encounter in the card in the dungeon on your turn. The third is that you can only solve one encounter or trap on your turn. And the fourth rule is that you can't play an encounter on your turn and then solve it that turn, to keep people from, being like, hey, I play this and then I take it, and I play this and then I take it. That's obnoxious. I hate that. This game doesn't allow that. And so yeah, there are only 4 rules, and the rules are simple, but the result is a complex strategic game full of hoarding and backstabbing. It's like reality TV, except with dragons.
Thank you for watching our gameplay video.
We're a very small independent tabletop game publishing company based out of St. Louis, and your support and feedback are critical to us publishing a version of this fantastic game. If you haven't already done so, you can pre-order a copy for $20 by visiting the Kickstarter page, which is linked below. Thanks!
Thank you.